Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, breaking down the game we love each and every day. Best discussion, debate, and analysis in the game. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. Got Justin DeTavier on the line. You can catch him on Twitter at Ironman Football, Ironman FB. Justin is going to give us a much different angle than what we typically take in talking college football today. Justin, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing just fine. So, let's go into your background so we can establish the credibility before we start diving and breaking down tape.
Yeah, I've been coaching high school football. This will be my 17th season coming up in August. The entire time that I've been coaching, I've been involved very heavily in athletic performance, so strength and conditioning, in some capacities, what some people would call it. I would call it athletic performance. I rarely deal in strength or in the idea of conditioning. And then I've been teaching this is my 11th year, 5 as an administrator, and been writing for State of the Youth for a couple of seasons, 3 maybe.
So basically the State of the U angle is where I found you. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we've got a strong connection there with Miami football and the work there at State of the U. So I'm going to start basically with what was one of the major criticisms of the team last year. And that's not in particular anything having to do with the players themselves, but with the approach of the offense being criticized as archaic. Well, we know many times that when the fan bases get together and then a theme starts and then the group thing kicks in and they don't necessarily know the X's and O's. So I will throw it at you in regards to your analysis of Miami football on the offensive side, the approach, the sets, the scheme, whether it was more player breakdown or coaching and a schematic breakdown.
It's hard to say when you're outside the actual meeting room, but when you start to observe, like on my end from watching opponents. So I currently am an offensive coordinator. But early in my career, I always coached defense for the most part, defensive coordinator. And so I can look at it from both aspects. When you start to look at an offense, you're thinking, okay, well, what is difficult to plan for? It's either running 1 or 2 formations, but you have 10 or 12 very, very good plays from them, which some people ascribe to that methodology. Some people say we're going to run 2 or 3 plays, so that'd be more like a Clemson, and we're going to run them out of 5 or 6 different formations, 6 or 7 more motions and some window dressing type stuff. I would say that would be more of a Clemson model. You're getting counter tray, you're going to get maybe power, you're going to get inside zone, which they run it more like duo, and then you're going to get, what else? They run split zone. So you're going to get 4 main plays, but they're going to run them out of a ton of stuff. So with Mark Richt, it seemed like it was almost the worst of both ends as far as there's only a couple of formations and there was only a couple of plays. So I think that made it really easy to tee off on, to kind of game plan. If it's 1st and 10, they're going to run the ball. If it's 2nd and short, they're running it again. If it's 2nd and medium to long, they're throwing. Like you're able to tee off a little bit on what people are doing. Formation was really dictating play a lot of times. I mean, there's talent on the field. Offensive line, seemed poorly coached on top of seeming like maybe some of the athletic performance stuff wasn't being well taken care of. At times, guys, in certain positions, guys seem really fast, and in certain positions, guys seem really, really fat and out of shape. So it was, maybe not an entirely solid process from top to bottom, 100 guys.
Got Justin DeTavia on the line from Ironman Football, specifically breaking down Miami, but he keeps his eye obviously on Miami's opponents throughout the ACC and the nation. So when you look at Dan Enos, if you had a chance to look into his past and what he brings to the table.
Yeah, and the best part about Coach Enos is that it seems like he's changed and adapted, but also improved every quarterback situation he's had. So if you look at it now, he was willing to adapt himself at times, but also was able to get the best out of someone. So Jalen Hurts would be a perfect example, right? Not really known as that much of an accurate passer, maybe even known more of a runner. But Jalen Hurts' passing game when he had to come in was much improved. At the same time, Enos didn't run the same scheme he ran at Arkansas or at Central Michigan with Alabama. He took what he had on the field and got the most out of it and had Hurts up his game in the passing content while also still allowing him to run, swing draw and things like that are more mobile quarterback-based plays. And Lee Rozier ran that in Miami. So I think that's the best part about him. He upped the level of the ability of the quarterback and the things they were good at. He masks some of the weaknesses with play calling. He masked some of the weaknesses by improving them, and definitely was more willing to adapt and change to the style that is going on wherever he is and the talent that's on the field. I think in Miami, he's going to wind up preying on the speed aspect of South Florida. Whereas at Arkansas, you might have gone for bigger, stronger players. Definitely Central Michigan, you're looking at, Midwest, you're looking at bigger, stronger players. I like the idea that he'll run multiple tight ends, but he'll split some of them out. So he might have one in a wing, one out at slot. He might have them both in line. He might have them both in wing formations. He's doing a little bit of everything.
Got Justin DeTavier on the line from Ironman Football. You can also catch him on State of the U covering Miami, breaking down the tape for us and for you. When we look at football and people get excited about 48-45 games, I'm no longer excited about the 48-45 game because I'm pretty much of an old guy who's been watching football since the early 80s, late 70s. And when I saw a 48-45 game in 1985 or 1995, then I was excited because I like diversity. I like to see different styles of football. I like to see different styles of offense. And when there's a 48-45 game that's where the offensive execution is just so good, like you see in the NFL, where the quarterbacks are hitting tight windows, the wide receivers are out fighting the defensive backs for the ball, the scheme is just really good, and it's not poor defense, then I love it. When it's guys running free in the secondary constantly and it's just poor tackling or lack of a effort to tackle, then that's not fun to watch for me. And I like to see the 13-10 game mixed in with the 48-45 game. And I also now enjoy what was deemed a boring offense in the I formation with a fullback, with a traditional tight end, because everybody's running the same thing. Just kind of speak to, is there any advantage at this point to running a non-traditional offense? And we could go the Navy and previous Georgia Tech route as well in preparing for an opponent.
There definitely is some advantage if you're good at it. So if you're a coaching staff that really understands how to coach it, I would never run something to be like contrarian if it wasn't something I was good at. Like I really love the flex bone, but I don't think I could teach it. I just don't know enough about it. I wasn't an expert, so it was something I never did. Even though I'm a really big fan of Navy and Paul Johnson and Coach Ken and what they do, it just wasn't for me. So I think when you have what you're good at, and you do something like that, yeah, it can be very deadly. Obviously, Georgia Tech won a couple of ACC championships, or at least one. Navy can have a lot of upsets. Army's upsetting people and winning 10 games. It can definitely work in the right situation. I think you can't force it. And, if you don't have 2 or 3 tight ends, if you're a really speed-based area in recruiting, it's not going to work. I mean, look at Wisconsin. It gets them to a point every year. They usually win 8, 9, 10 games, right? Like it's rare for them to slip under that 8-win window, because they're banking on what they do. Stanford is going the same way, right? They rarely slip under 8 wins. Even though in reality, if you looked at their recruiting base, they really shouldn't be able to be that successful, but they are, right? Sometimes they have really high recruiting class, sometimes they're really low. It just matters who the smart guys, if they're any good at football that year or not. But I think when you're really good at it, it really is beneficial for you to do what you do best. Patriots always, for the longest time, were 2, 3 tight end set, right? They won a couple of Super Bowls that way. They went away from it. They all of a sudden came back to it in the Super Bowl and in the AFC Championship game. Where it benefited them was they were going against defenses that were built to stop spread. So they were looking at smaller defensive backs, smaller linebackers, maybe a lack of having real defensive linemen in depth. So if you can wear a couple guys out with a couple of tight ends, you bang on those defensive ends who are used to pass rushing, you can take advantage of them and get a bigger body on a linebacker, and now you're beating him up too. So it really can benefit you. I think, like for instance, with Miami, I think they're going to multiple tight end sets because they have 2 or 3 good tight ends. I think if you only have one, what's the point of coming out in 2 or 3 tight ends if it's a couple of walk-ons or a walk-on, some running back hybrid guy? Do it with what you've got. But yeah, I think there is a huge benefit to being the other team that you game plan for. And it's why Navy and Georgia Tech and stuff were so hard to go after. To play without a bye week, right? And now Army as well, because of what they do. It's very different. It's what made Florida or Utah, Baylor, what made them special for all those years when they were doing it and not everybody else understood it.
Got Justin Datavia on the line from Ironman Football. You can join him on State of the U, where he breaks down Miami's tape and opponents' tape, and also join him on Twitter at IronmanFB. So, Justin, obviously the RPO has taken over, as we alluded to previously. For people that watch as much football as I do, like 15 hours on a Saturday, we can pick up certain things. We're more knowledgeable than other people, but not nearly as much as you. And if you've played maybe at the high school level, you understand maybe a few other things. But if you could break down the RPO and what makes it effective and what are the keys from start to finish, I think we'd better understand what the concept is.
Yeah, it's what's funny is it's a simple concept. The best way to describe it is in the Georgia Tech Navy type of option offense, it would be a double option. You're on the basis. The easiest way to teach is a double option that you're either going to throw some kind of a passing combination that's tagged as a package onto a running concept. So if you're running split zone, so H-back's on the right side, he's going to kick back down, the defensive end on the left. You're going to give the back the ball. He's supposed to go to the right side. He can cut back. So that's their running concept. Quarterback doesn't have to run, right? Split zone, he doesn't run on split zone. He's going to hand the ball off and then look over. If the overhang player, you have to put somebody in conflict. The thing that Mark Richt wasn't doing very successfully at Miami is putting a player in conflict. So you want to put someone in conflict. I like to pick on 5 technique defensive ends, and I like to pick on flat defenders. So if I'm going to put those guys in conflict, they're not going to have to wonder what's coming. So, you might gap hinge, which is just your typical turn in, turn out block on a defensive end. He gets gap hinge, he gets a split zone. That means the H-back to hit him right in the face. The next time that you go to that guy, you're going to run dart, which is tackle wrap. So the tackle's going to pull from left to right in front of him. So now he's been gap hinged. He's been kicked out in split zone. Now he's had a guy pull in front of him. So you're picking on him. He's slow, right? Every time that he sees that pull, now he's going to be nervous because a quarterback might pull and run dart and run back behind him. Well, in the RPO part of that, you're picking on the flat defender. You can run a bubble. You're going to, kind of ride it. That guy plays the run, you throw the bubble. That guy plays the bubble, you hand off. That's pretty easy. Then you start adding in concepts, right? You run a stop route so that you have the bubble, but you have a slant on the other side of it as opposed to having him stock block, that outside receiver. Now, the flat defender, you're hoping he runs with the bubble so you can throw the stop behind him, right? Now he's really frozen. He's not going to move anywhere. Now he just freezes his feet. You can do whatever one of the ones you want to. You can hand the bubble, you could throw the stop, or you could, pull and run. You can do almost anything on him now because he's frozen. Then you just run your typical passing game, and you run a wheel route. He goes out and pulls up field, and that guy, flat defender, is just frozen because he's been picked on so much he has no idea what to do. If you're just grab bagging at plays, the RPO doesn't make any sense. But when you're running concepts that look very similar to each other over and over again, eventually you can really start picking on that guy and even have rub routes. You're going to bang them into each other. So the flat defender and the corner just kind of run into each other, right? Florida State was big on that with Jimbo Fisher. Notre Dame runs a lot with Brian Kelly, where the outside receiver is running a slant, but he's not. He's just banging into a guy. And the arrow route, that flat zero, comes out around the backside of it. You throw that thing, it goes for 40 yards. So I think that's run pass option to me is just a double option. It becomes a triple only when you're going to pull and the quarterback can either throw the bubble out there while he's in the middle of a run. So that would be inside zone with a bubble to the pull side. That would be the only time it would really be triple option. You can always RPO the third level, so that's the safety. Baylor was really famous for doing that for a long time. The Art Briles running outside zone with a backside post. You can, again, and then the other one would be to RPO the second level linebacker.
Justin, is there any thing that comes to mind over the last couple of years where you're watching tape or just watching a live game and you saw something that would be transparent to the rest of us that could be just a very subtle wrinkle? Because at this point, I would think that most of those offenses are developed in that mold. We pretty much see everybody running the same base offense for the most part, about 90% of the country. But it really stands out as wow, I haven't seen that before. That's interesting, or that's really innovative.
Sometimes it's the way people do things. Like, I think it was Noel Mazzoni when he was at UCLA was running like a screen pass option. So trying to get back exactly how he did it. It was like if like the stick route on the front side's not there, so he covers his stick route. So that's just where the slot receiver runs about 5 yards and turns around. The linebacker covers that. He was just throwing a screen on the other side, running back screen. So the left side of his whole line is blocking a screen out to the flat. So linemen are just downfield, just running around there killing somebody. And the right side of the line is pass setting in front of him. The right side's running two hitches more or less. The left side is out blocking, and the running back's running a screen. So if that thing gets covered, he throws it. If it's uncovered, he just darts it in there real quick. That's pretty cool. I like that. We run a form of that where I coach that I hadn't really ran before and thought was really innovative, which is kind of a double screen where you either throw it to the back or you can, and if the back's covered, then you throw it. So you're hoping that tunnel screen on the other side is open. It's never been covered yet, so we've been pretty lucky with it. But it's a hard thing to cover on a backside, so you can kind of wait and not read it. You read the swing and then you turn and throw. It's like a swing to tunnel. I think it's pretty cool. Guys are just doing cool stuff, like the Longhorn down play Daniel Holgerson ran against Texas was pretty cool. Just having, it's what you'd call, somebody's called water bucket. We called it swinging gate in Florida, where, on the extra point, you'd have the offensive line on the left side with like a receiver. You'd have the holder, the kicker, and the snapper in the middle. And you'd have like one receiver split out to the right. He sort of does that in a way with the Longhorn down, where the outside receiver has the chance to run like a slant or a fade. Quarterback can always keep it and run draw. And we saw Will Grier run it in for touchdown. Or you can throw a sit down, and there's like a tunnel. There's like 5 different plays rolled into one, forcing a defense to game plan for all 5 and cover all 5, which is almost impossible. So it was almost like the flawless 5 yards and in play.
Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, a discussion, debate, and analysis. The game we love. We got Justin DeTavia on the line from Ironman Football. You can also catch him on State of the U breaking down at game tape. Chip Kelly, hired by UCLA. Obviously, he was a mastermind at Oregon for a couple different reasons. Light offensive linemen that would get out, spread the field, and be able to do things that we didn't see before that. Pace of play. A number of things that he was able to do there at Oregon, where the thought is now that everything's caught up, and to his credit, people have caught on to what he did. So now he comes back into the college game, and I'm going to liken it to Steve Spurrier, who in the 90s had a sophisticated passing attack way ahead of everyone else. Everybody caught up. He goes to South Carolina, and he adjusts in that he now becomes like a what appears to be a defensive-minded running game guy that wins that way because his passing game is no longer innovative and ahead of the curve. And so what do you see when you watch Chip Kelly, and what do you think the challenge is there? And is it basically what I just laid out, or is it different than basically – he's got a calling card and it's kind of been taken away? Is he going to be still an effective CEO and do the other things as a head coach to be successful?
I think he adapted in the NFL to he had to be more multiple because the guys have so much film and they have 30 analysts and quality control guys to watch every little thing you do. So where Kelly was going with such fast tempo at Oregon, lining up inside zone different from outside zone, the backfield didn't matter, because you couldn't adjust fast enough to do anything about it. Excuse me, seeing that the back is back in tighter on inside zone. Oh, he's even with the quarterback and over on outside zone. It was too late to make a difference, to make an adjustment. It never really affected them that much at Oregon. In the NFL, those guys are seeing that so much quicker. They don't need coaches to help see those things. The linebackers are seeing that themselves, and they know exactly what play it is, and they're calling it out and running to it. So he had to make some adjustments even there from his time at the Eagles. And then the thing with the 49ers was a total mess. Down in at UCLA, I think he's going to adapt and change. I watched a couple other games and a little bit of stuff, and I thought he had changed a little bit. I mean, I think in the Pac-12, going up tempo is still going to work, especially when you have the San Diego, LA, and Las Vegas talent, and they don't. He's going to have to get somebody to recruit the way Mario Cristobal has at Oregon and really lock those guys in and beat out USC for him. But, the vibe right now at USC is obviously a little negative. UCLA doesn't have any negativity kind of circling around it again. So I think for him, it'll be the process of kind of understanding who he is now, locking into it, getting the right guys for the job. And I think that'll be something that'll benefit me. I think the job wasn't as good as people thought it was. And he took a job that he knows can be good if they give him the 5 years to do it. But this is like a 5-year job. Like, I think even this year, I think they're going to be a lot better. But I think they will be more competitive in the South once maybe like year 3 starts off. So you might need like another whole year to where they're really competitive. But, I mean, compared to Arizona State, Who else is over there? USC.
Yeah, Utah, Colorado.
Yeah, I'm more concerned with Utah than any of the rest of them, basically because of the consistency. You've had the same coach for so long. He was already part of the program before. That's more of a concern than anybody else. USC, we'll see. We'll see what they can do. That guy might be out of a job. He's got to really win. UCLA could be a great job, again, because you've got Vegas, San Diego, and LA right there, and you don't need to recruit much more than that.
Absolutely. And they were much better in November than they were earlier in the season. Justin Tatavia, State of the U, you can catch him there. Ironman Football. Join his Twitter feed there at Ironman FB. Justin, I appreciate you stopping by. The information, the insight, the analysis was awesome.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Anytime.